You think civilization was built on hope, on love, on the dream of a better tomorrow. But that's not what the evidence shows. Civilization wasn't built by dreamers holding hands around a campfire. It was built by people who were absolutely terrified. Terrified of chaos, of invasion, of starvation, of disease, of being forgotten by the gods. Fear didn't just shape civilization. Fear is civilization. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's go back, way back. Number one, the first laws weren't about justice. They were about fear of revenge. Mesopotamia, around 1750 BC. King Hammurabi carves 282 laws into a massive stone pillar. We call it the Code of Hammurabi. History classes tell you it's the foundation of law and order, the birth of justice, the beginning of civilized society. But read it closely. If a man puts out the eye of another man, his eye shall be put out. If a man breaks another man's bone, his bone shall be broken. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. This wasn't about fairness. It wasn't about moral philosophy. It wasn't about human rights. It was about containment. Because before written law, there was something else: vengeance. Imagine living in a world with no courts, no police, no prisons. Someone kills your brother. There's no trial, no neutral judge. So you retaliate. Maybe you don't just kill the murderer. Maybe you kill his cousin, or burn his fields, or take his daughter. Then his family retaliates, then yours does again. One insult becomes a war. One death becomes a massacre. Anthropologists have studied small-scale tribal societies, and this pattern repeats across cultures. Blood feuds can last generations. Entire clans can be wiped out over a single act. So Hammurabi didn't invent morality. He limited revenge. He said, if someone harms you, here is the maximum response allowed. Not more, not less. The brutality was the point. The predictability was the solution. People obeyed not because they admired Hammurabi. They obeyed because they feared something worse: endless retaliation. Law wasn't born from kindness. It was born from exhaustion, from the terror that society would collapse under its own rage. The law was a leash on human violence, and it worked, because people feared chaos more than they feared punishment. Fear created the first legal system. Number two, religion wasn't born from love of the divine. It was born from fear of the unknown. Early humans looked at the sky and saw fire. Lightning struck without warning. Crops failed for no reason they could understand. Earthquakes split the ground open. Plagues killed children overnight. And the human brain cannot tolerate uncertainty. We are pattern-seeking creatures. When something bad happens, we need a cause. And if we can't find a natural one, we invent a supernatural one. The ancient Sumerians believed their gods controlled floods and harvests. If they didn't offer sacrifices, the gods might withdraw protection. The ancient Egyptians believed that maintaining cosmic order, ma'at, was necessary to prevent chaos from swallowing the world. The Aztecs believed the sun required human blood to rise each morning. Think about that. Human sacrifice wasn't performed out of cruelty for its own sake. It was performed out of fear that the universe would stop functioning without it. These weren't acts of love. They were acts of desperation. Religion gave structure to chaos. It transformed randomness into rules. Pray this way. Fast on these days. Avoid these behaviors. Offer this sacrifice. In exchange, maybe the harvest will come. Maybe the plague will pass. Maybe your child will survive the winter. Religion turned cosmic terror into a checklist. And that checklist did something powerful. It synchronized behavior. Shared rituals created shared identity. Shared identity created cooperation. If everyone believes the gods are watching, you don't need constant policing. Social order enforces itself. Even today, notice the language, God-fearing. We still treat fear as a virtue. He's a God-fearing man, meaning he behaves, he follows rules, he can be trusted. Fear of divine punishment did what love never could. It made millions of strangers align their behavior under one invisible authority. Religion wasn't primarily about comfort, it was about control. Control over fear, control over behavior, control over chaos. Number 3, cities were built because we feared the wilderness. For most of human history, we were nomads, small bands moving across landscapes, following animals and seasons. Then something changed. We started settling down. Agriculture wasn't just an innovation, it was a response to fear. When you depend on hunting, you depend on luck. Herds migrate, weather shifts, one bad season and your tribe starves. Farming was a gamble, but it was a controlled gamble. Plant seeds, store grain, build walls. Jericho, one of the earliest cities in history, had massive stone walls thousands of years before modern warfare. Why? To keep others out, to protect stored food. Stored food attracts raiders. So the moment we created surplus, we created threat. And the moment we felt threatened, we built walls. Cities weren't built because humans suddenly loved crowds. They were built because concentrated living made defense easier. In a village of 10 families scattered across miles, everyone is vulnerable. In a city with walls and watchtowers, you stand a chance. Urban civilization was a fortress strategy. We traded freedom of movement for security, and we've been making that trade ever since.
Number 4. Borders exist because we fear the outsider more than we love our neighbor. Look at a map. Clean lines separating countries, as if they were drawn calmly by philosophers. They weren't. They were drawn by armies, by treaties signed after wars, by colonizers with rulers and guns. The Great Wall of China wasn't a tourist attraction. It was a defensive scar stretching thousands of miles to keep out nomadic tribes. Hadrian's Wall divided Roman Britain from what they considered barbarian lands. The Berlin Wall wasn't built to celebrate unity, it was built to prevent escape. Every wall in history is a monument to fear. Fear of invasion, fear of cultural dilution, fear of economic loss, fear of rebellion. Humans are tribal by design. Evolution rewarded those who identified allies quickly and treated outsiders cautiously. Psychologists call it in-group bias. We trust people who speak like us, dress like us, worship like us. Everyone else, potential threat. So we formalized the instinct. Passports, visas, citizenship, immigration quotas. Not because we love our compatriots so intensely, but because we fear what might happen if we let the wrong people in. Even modern political campaigns understand this. Hope inspires applause. Fear wins elections. Fear of immigrants taking jobs, fear of losing national identity, fear of crime, fear of economic collapse. Borders don't just block movement, they calm anxiety. They give the illusion that chaos is outside and order is inside. Fear built every nation-state you know. Number 5. Obedience was never about respect, it was about survival. How does one person control millions? It's not charisma alone, not love alone, it's fear. Ancient Egypt, the pharaoh was divine. Disobedience wasn't political rebellion, it was cosmic treason. Medieval Europe, kings ruled by divine right. To oppose the king was to oppose God. In imperial China, challenging the emperor was challenging the mandate of heaven. In the Soviet Union, Stalin didn't demand affection, he cultivated paranoia, the midnight knock, the disappearance, the labor camp. You don't need citizens to love you. You need them to believe consequences are real. Fear is efficient. One public execution sends a message to thousands. Modern societies are subtler, but the mechanism is the same. Fines, arrests, social shaming, digital surveillance. Even when no one is watching, we behave as if someone might be. Strip away consequences and observe what happens. Traffic laws without penalties, tax systems without audits, property without enforcement. Respect is fragile. Fear is scalable. Obedience has always rested on the anticipation of punishment, and it still does.
Number 6, economies run on fear of scarcity. Money itself is built on anxiety. Why do you work? Not purely for fulfillment, not purely for joy. You work because you fear what happens if you don't. No food, no shelter, no health care, no status. Ancient grain storage systems weren't just about abundance, they were about hedging against famine. Modern banking systems? Built after financial panics. The Great Depression led to deposit insurance because people feared losing everything overnight. Stock markets surge and crash on two emotions, greed and fear is the stronger one. When investors panic, markets collapse. When consumers fear recession, they stop spending and create one. Scarcity, or the fear of it, drives innovation. Competition isn't always about ambition, it's about not falling behind. Companies don't just innovate to improve lives, they innovate because they fear being replaced. Kodak feared digital photography too late. Blockbuster feared streaming too late. Fear punishes complacency. Entire economic systems are structured around avoiding loss, not achieving love, avoiding loss. Number 7, war was the great accelerator. Many of humanity's greatest technological leaps came during war. Radar, the internet, GPS, nuclear energy. World War II alone transformed aviation, medicine, computing. Why? Because fear compresses time. When survival is at stake, bureaucracy collapses. Funding appears instantly. Collaboration accelerates. The Manhattan Project wasn't born from curiosity about atomic physics. It was born from fear that Nazi Germany would build the bomb first. The space race wasn't about wonder. It was about geopolitical dominance. Fear makes the impossible urgent. Love moves slowly. Fear demands now. It's uncomfortable to admit, but conflict has often been the midwife of progress.
So, what does this mean? It means the story we tell ourselves is incomplete. We prefer narratives about hope, unity, and shared dreams. And those forces do exist, but underneath them, driving them, has often been fear. Fear of extinction, fear of disorder, fear of loss. Fear is not a glitch in civilization, it's the foundation. The problem isn't that fear built civilization. The problem is that we rarely acknowledge it. When you understand that fear is the engine, you begin to see modern society differently. Why governments amplify threats, why media headlines emphasize danger, why leaders invoke enemies, why crises are prolonged. Fear mobilizes. It makes people comply. It makes people spend. It makes people vote. It makes people act. It is the oldest political technology in existence. But here's the twist. Fear built civilization. Awareness can rebuild it. Because fear is a tool. Unexamined, it controls you. Examined, it empowers you. The same fear that builds walls can build resilience. The same fear that fuels war can fuel preparation. The same fear that creates obedience can create discipline. The difference is consciousness. If you know you're being manipulated through fear, you gain distance from it. If you understand your own fears of failure, rejection, irrelevance, you can channel them instead of being paralyzed by them. Civilization may have been built on fear, but freedom is built on understanding it. And once you see the pattern in laws, religion, borders, economies, obedience, you can't unsee it. The question is no longer whether fear shapes society. It does. The question is, who controls it? And now that you see it, what are you going to do with it? Because history isn't just something that happened, it's something that's happening right now. And fear is still writing the script.